So, what happens after we put our little monster to sleep? We talk film after dark. Good evening, 0DB Movie Podcast listeners, and welcome to After Dark, our after hours movie podcast that we do after our little monster goes to sleep. We try to keep this as loose and short as possible and not get too nerdy about the films the way I do on the headline show with John, because not only are we doing this at night, but usually after a long day and it's late. I am your humble host, Gabe, and with me is the second half of the we in this After Dark podcast, and that is my co host and lovely wife, Claudia. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good, excited to be back.
I know this is episode 2. Um, we're still figuring out where it's going and what we're doing and what our thing's going to be with this. I know it's after dark. We're
Yes, it
tired.
is. Usually. We're tired all day.
That's true. We are tired
Morning,
all day.
noon, or night. We have a 3-year-old.
That's true. And hopefully he'll stay awake. Stay asleep during this whole thing, and then
That's
we'll
right.
go to sleep.
That's right.
So today we are discussing a movie that we both love. Well, I definitely love, and I know you've kind of come to love. And I feel stands definitely the test of time. We are going to discuss this hate-free, like I try to do with all the movies discussed here on the 0DB Movie Podcast feed. No hate. Hate is so easy,
It's too easy.
It's way too easy. The movie is Point Break.
Point Break 1991.
So, to start this off, this is what we're going to do. Let me give you a summary of what I read about basically what the movie is. And then from there, we'll see how we feel and it'll get the ball rolling on what it is. So, the summary it says a string of systematic bank robberies by a daring gang of thieves who named themselves the ex-presidents terrorized the sun-drenched Southern California as the rubber-masked criminals act fast without leaving a trace, right under the nose of the police. Under those circumstances, the clean-cut and inexperienced FBI agent, Johnny Utah, after following up on a lead, goes undercover to infiltrate the local surfing community to extract information from his surf tutor, Tyler. Before long, as Johnny gets into the group, he will befriend Bodie, the mystic and enigmatic surf leader, who will teach him not only how to catch the perfect wave, but also how to find a new meaning in life. Inevitably, Johnny, I guess they call him Johnny, walks a thin line. How far will he go without blowing his cover? So that's the summary. That's our film. Let's get into this movie.
Let's go.
So, do you remember watching this film like back in the day, or was it something more recent?
Well, I definitely remember when the film came out. I was 12, about. And
Yeah, 1991.
1991. I just did the math. And I remember seeing the commercials for it and thinking it was badass. Like thinking like, whoa, they're wearing president's masks. There's like surfing going on. It's sexy. It's cool. Keanu Reeves was kind of becoming popular, and he's cute. So I knew Patrick Swayze from like Dirty Dancing and stuff, but I wasn't like a huge fan. I was just like, oh yeah, okay, Patrick Swayze. I love him now, but at the time, and I think he had just done Ghost too, so he was super, super popular at the time. And I'm sure I didn't see this at the theater because I was too young and I didn't really go to the movie theater much. And so whenever I did see it, I'm sure it was years and years later, probably in like my late teens or early 20s and on VHS or DVD or something. So the thing I liked about Point Break and why I thought of it as something to talk about is because it's sort of like my first action type film that I remember being excited about. And then it turns out it was directed, by Catherine Bigelow, who obviously is a woman, and I didn't even know at the time. And she's the only woman to ever win an Academy Award. Obviously not for this film, but it's still worth noting. And so I wanted to sort of go back and watch it again and just try to like find things about it that I think are worth talking about. So
I was trying to figure out if I remember, I definitely didn't see this in the theater. You didn't see it in the theater, right?
No,
You
no.
had VHS
Yeah,
rental,
yeah, or DVD.
or
Yeah,
probably DVD rental, right?
yeah.
I don't remember when I saw it. I could have seen it on like HBO first or something like that because I don't know why I would rent it. I don't know. I do remember liking it. I do remember. I don't know if it was either Keanu or Patrick Swayze.
Was your in? Oh, Gary Busey?
It could have been. Nah, I don't know if it was music. It was probably Swayze, and probably because of
Red Dawn.
Red Dawn and Dirty Dancing. Right? That was like what, 87. Red Dawn
Yeah.
was when,
85,
something
maybe,
like
I don't know,
that.
yeah.
So that's probably why I saw it. And like you said, the commercial, the trailer, it's just like badass. It's like
Yeah.
surfing, bank
For me,
robbers.
too, I was just thinking, it was around that time that 90210 came out on TV. And so my pop culture references in that time of my life, like, was from TV. I wasn't really, like I said, going to the film, like the cinema, or like I was too young to really see anything worthwhile. Like I couldn't get in to see anything. So whatever was cool, whatever was happening, I would get from TV. And on top of that, we didn't have cable. So whatever was just on network TV, and 90210 kind of came out around that time, and they were all about being at the beach and surfing and like, showing that
Surfing was pretty.
California
Yeah,
lifestyle.
surfing was pretty hot then.
I know, and I'm from New York City. I'm like, the beaches were whack when I was growing up. You couldn't go. They were dirty. There was nothing to see except, things you did not want to see. Definitely did not look like a California beach. So that was another reason why like that film stuck out at that time as like this is like the epitome of cool.
Right. Yeah, I mean, speaking of 91, I mean, released in 91, directed by none other than Catherine Bigelow, who up until then had directed about only 5 films, and 2 were like short films. The only one I heard of before this one was Blue Steel in '89, which he directed and wrote, and stars our very own Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right, and I want to go back and watch that because I don't think I've ever seen
I
it.
know, I read the synopsis for it, and I was like, you know what, this sounds pretty good.
She's like stalked by.
She's like a cop and like
Yeah.
is stalked. Yeah, who knows?
I think I remember seeing a picture of her in like the cop uniform, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
think the cover. She's definitely on the cover.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it's a cop uniform or not, but
Okay.
so yeah, so the movie was written by Rick King and Peter. What is it? Iliff, which is also wrote the screenplay. Apparently, his story was in one of the documentaries I saw. He was like a waiter still, and he got paid like $6,000, and was writing this thing at night, and like, all this crazy stuff. But the funny thing is that like Rick King, he didn't do much until '91, and actually wrote. He wrote the 2015 Point Break, which
Oh, just
we're
really.
not hating, but like I'm gonna say, I definitely don't feel. I mean, it was a remake, so I can hate on that.
I mean, it was just really not good for
No.
me. I tried watching it. I didn't get through the whole thing at one sitting, and I don't know. It was just they went on like this spiritual track. I think probably because this.
And Peter Iliff, or what is it? Yeah, it's Iliff. He did the same thing. He wrote the screenplay for that new one too.
Yeah.
So they got the team back together, but a little side thing is because I just read today that officially uncredited because of an unresolved issue with the Writers Guild of America, James Cameron and Catherine Bigelow, who were married at the time,
May.
they rewrote the final script for the original Point Break.
Oh, they rewrote. Okay.
Yeah, so
They were married in 91?
I think at the time they were married.
Oh.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, yeah.
I could be wrong.
I thought they were married later, but because I remember reading, so with Catherine Bigelow, they consider Blue Steel, the film from that you
Right.
just mentioned, Point Break in 91, and then Strange Days in 95. They consider that like her trilogy of like action type films.
Yeah, because then she went to what they called journalism film.
Yeah, I get the, and with the Hurt Locker and
and
Zero
films
Dark
yeah.
30, and I think she won the Oscar for the Hurt Locker though,
I believe so.
or maybe it was Zero Dark 30. I don't know. I
Not
couldn't
sure.
watch Zero Dark 30. I started to watch it and I think I was pregnant and I was like I can't. I don't want to watch about torture.
Yeah.
Can't do it. But I did see The Hurt Locker, and I did remember liking it a lot. So I'm not sure which film she won, but I know that they said these three films, her earlier films, were like her trifecta at the time. And Strange Days, I think, had something going on with Jim Cameron, and that's why I thought they were married at that time. Like when she filmed that movie, there was something about the production and him being involved in some way or whatever. Maybe they're going through a divorce. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Definitely
okay.
interesting. I mean, but like the cast, we'll start with the basics. We got Patrick Swayze.
Right.
He's Bodie.
Right.
We got Keanu Reeves as Johnny Utah. I don't know why they put Johnny Utah. Yeah, I guess it is Johnny Utah.
They said he was like
John Utah, but then they call him Johnny.
they called him Johnny throughout the whole
I think
movie,
you're
right?
right. Yeah.
But didn't they say it was like kind of loosely based on Joe Montana?
Just
Like
the name.
just the name, like
Yeah, going back and forth.
because
with
he
the
played
name.
football.
Right.
Johnny Utah played football in college and whatever.
So then we got Gary Busey as Papas.
Yes.
Lori Petty, the love interest,
Right.
Tyler, and John McGinley as Ben Harp, the stereotypical yelling police captain.
He did
Constantly
yell. He
yelling
yelled a
with some
lot.
like ridiculous banter back and forth with them. But I mean, that's a crazy cast. The cast goes on and on. You got a couple surfers and like some other people here and there. But I mean,
Anthony Kiedis,
Anthony Kiedis,
right?
you know, but
From
nobody.
Red
yeah.
Hot Chili Peppers.
But that was like the core. That's what they sold on. That's what all the trailers showed you, and they're like, you know,
Right.
these guys, you know. But I mean, what Patrick Swayze was doing. I mean, where was he at in '91? I mean, he was doing.
He just did Ghost. I remember
He
hearing.
just did
Yeah.
Ghost. Before that, before that, Roadhouse. Steel Dawn, Dirty Dancing, '87. But then like, yeah, 1991, '92, The Player. So Patrick Swayze was pretty hot. You had Keanu Reeves, who in, I mean,
I think
'91.
he'd done Parenthood already, because that came out in the '80s. But that was like a small
I mean,
role.
talk about working. 1990, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure TV series.
It was a TV
I
series.
know, I didn't even know that. But '89, Parenthood, Todd.
Right. He was great.
Bill and Ted's was '89. Dangerous
Right.
Liaisons before that.
Oh right.
So he was kind of getting there. You know, Paula Abdul, the Rush Rush video.
Oh my God, I remember that. That was
Apparently
awesome.
his name was Jeff.
Of course, his name was
Right.
Jeff,
So they did a Point Break, and the same year in '91, he did Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey,
which is one of my favorite movies.
My Own Private Idaho,
Right.
and Providence. Dude, working hard,
Yeah.
right? That whole year. Then it goes into like Bram Stoker's Dracula, Much Ado About Nothing,
Well, we watched that thing that.
Speed in '94, Johnny
Yeah.
Mnemonic.
Well, that was funny because we watched a short documentary before talking about the film in which they said Catherine Bigelow really pushed to cast Keanu.
Yeah, she was really into him.
She wanted him. She was obsessed with him, and he hadn't done any action films yet. And it's funny because when they said it, when they said it that way, I was like, oh my God, I always thought Speed was his first action movie, but obviously it wasn't.
This
But
one
you know
was,
what it
yeah.
is? I kind of think this movie is more of a cop movie. It's an action film, but
Right.
to me, I think I
It's an
didn't
action
really
adventure, though. It is listed as an
Yeah.
action adventure.
think-
It is also a heist film.
a heist film. There it is.
You know?
Yeah.
Then we got Gary Busey. Gary Busey was already big from like doing. Well, I loved him in DC Cab. That was like 1983, a long time ago. But Lethal Weapon,
Another huge buddy cop movie. Right?
Predator 2. And they did Point Break. You know, I mean, like, so he was kind of known as kind of like that guy. You know.
Yeah.
Lori Petty. I mean, like she.
I never saw her before. I have to be honest, when I saw the movie at the time, I was annoyed by her because I didn't think she was particularly pretty, which I know is horrible.
Right.
But I was 12, and
Right.
I remember feeling like, ugh, who's this? Like I was expecting, a Barbie
Well,
doll.
she was in something that you probably would have liked, which was the TV movie called Bates Motel.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Couple Twilight Zone stuff, Miami Vice, blah blah blah. But I think what was going on in her life in '91, before that, which I remember seeing, is Cadillac Man. She was in
Oh, okay,
Cadillac
I never
Man.
saw that.
That was a pretty good one. Um, what's his face was the star in it. I mean, there was Robin Williams and Tim Robbins, Pamela Reed, Fran Drescher, Zach Norman.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. But I mean, like, that's a pretty big cast for a movie coming out now. I mean, Catherine Bigelow, I don't think was necessarily well known.
I don't think so either. And it was, I was trying to do a little bit of research about her because I was trying to think, why don't I know much about her? And there's really not much out there about her. I think she must just be a very intensely
Very
private
private.
person. And she also, I did hear one quote, I did read one quote of hers. Well, I think she was addressing like the idea that women shouldn't make films, and she said shouldn't direct films. And she said, she was like, well, I can't change my gender, and I live to make films, so I'm just gonna make films. And I think she kind of does maybe have that approach in her career. Maybe that she doesn't. I feel like she doesn't really like poise herself as like I'm a female director and I have this woman perspective or whatever, So, ooh, sorry. So I think maybe that's why there's not that much about her because she just kind of, she goes in there, she does her job, and
I
that's it.
mean, movie cost 24 million. It grossed 43 million.
Yeah, it was successful.
Um, Rentals alone were 20 million, 50 million worldwide, and they filmed it in less than, I mean, 9th of July in 90 to 24th of October in 1990. That's not a lot of time of filming.
Right,
July,
right,
August, September, October, 4 months.
right, right.
So that's pretty good. I mean, like, overall, I think it seems like it was a
Especially,
success, too. It must have been, I mean, it seems like that's what it is. It's so long ago
right.
that like we don't remember if it was a
And of
box
course,
office success
for
in our world.
I don't know why, but everybody always like hates on Keanu, and they're like, "Why does he have a career?" I love him. I don't think I've ever really seen anything of his that I've been like, "Oh my god, that was horrible." You know,
Right, right,
he's
right.
I really like him. I think he's got a lot of charisma. And anyway, so what I'm getting at is that people like to criticize this movie because of him,
Right,
partly,
right. Well,
and so it makes you feel like it wasn't successful, but it was, you
since
know.
this podcast is hate free,
Yeah, no hating on Keanu. I
no.
love Keanu.
But since it's, yeah, I mean, let's discuss what we liked in this film, loved in this film, and of course we can discuss what we don't agree with in this film, but just not hate on it, and just not hate on things that we could just use, like what I like to say, theater of the mind. Of is just like, of course some things are not going to be exactly scientifically correct, but that's the whole point about the movie. It's like a song too. Like sometimes you just got to get to the bridge, and you got to do it with a chord change that doesn't make sense, and then you just get into
Yeah,
it.
no, it's true.
um, so let's dig in a little bit. Um, you know, what's your overall reactions to the film and like a broad stroke to kind of like overall general feeling like, hey, you just saw this movie, like, how do you feel about it? Then we can
Okay.
kind of jump into more like detail-y type stuff.
So when I rewatched it now for the purpose of talking about it for this After Hours series, I did sort of want to look at what themes are in the film that I find interesting and like worth talking and discussing. And so the first thing that comes to mind is just it's a movie about knowing. Like who knows, who doesn't know, when do they know, when do they find out, what are they discovering? I mean, it's multifaceted because you have this heist, like you said, it's a heist movie, right? So you have the FBI looking for these criminals. So already you're like, okay, obviously they don't know who these people are, and then they have to find out who they are. On top of that, you have Johnny Utah, who's brand new to everything, paired with like Pappas, who's a veteran. So there's that dynamic of the veteran knows everything, the
Right.
young guy knows nothing.
Yeah. What are they? The blue flame?
Blue flame.
Yeah.
What was the blue flame?
They say it twice in that movie
Dude, I
to
don't know.
Keanu, like being a rookie.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I didn't even hear that. But yeah, so there's that, and then there's once we meet Bodhi, and get to know like his philosophy of the world and whatever, he's all about becoming enlightened and transcending this world and our roles in this world and everything else. So, those are some heavy duty themes to take on in like a cop movie or like
A
a
heist
heist
film.
film or, whatever. I also wrote down like buddy cop, buddy criminals, because the movie also is a lot about the relationships between the law enforcement agents and the tribe like criminal, Um, so that was interesting. And also, I think because it came out of the 80s, like buddy movies like Lethal Weapon. And I mean, I realize that's a comedy action franchise, but still, it's like the audience is used to that. They've seen that for a few years, and so now we're bringing it to like this cool new place where
What if
you
they were surfers?
yeah, like there's so and even but it's funny because even in the movie they're kind of making fun of it
Right,
of the fact that he's going to become a surfer to infiltrate this group, and
right.
he's like, you're telling me the FBI is going to pay me to surf, like they're poking fun at the idea, the premise of the movie, which is, yeah, this dude's going to become a surfer so he can find out what's happening.
Right.
So there's
So
that.
so overall, you liked it.
Yeah, I did. I liked it. I liked it then. I like it now. I'll always like it.
Cool, cool. Yeah, me too. Definitely when I watched it again too, I was just like, you know what, this movie doesn't get old.
No.
Um, Obviously they tried to remake it in 2015, and that didn't work. I mean, at least for me, I didn't even get into like reading reviews or like how it did in the box office
Right.
because it wasn't a sequel, it wasn't a prequel, it was directly a redo
Mm-hmm.
by the original writers, and I feel like it was like a cash grab. So
I think they, in a way, they may have wanted to do. You're gonna crucify me, but they may have wanted to do like what George Lucas did for the Star Wars. Like I think maybe the writers had this idea of what they wanted Point Break to be, and it wasn't physically possible at the time. Because if you see the 2015 film, I mean, the sets and like the landscapes they use and like it's beautiful. It's like beyond. Like it's like gorgeous.
I think the movie would have been I
But the
think the movie would have
stories
been
were.
saved if they just called it something else.
No, I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right. And I mean, I don't want to hate on the actors. Like, and the guy who played Bodhi, I forget his name now, but he's a known actor. He's done heavy duty stuff, and he's usually very good. But in the remake, I mean, it was just so lame. And then the guy who was supposed to take over Johnny Utah's role, I mean, I don't know where this guy came from. He's from Australia. I think he was a surfer, I think he's like an extreme athlete, like doing that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And he didn't have any charisma. There was no magnetism. And I think in the original, like even though people make fun of Keanu Reeves and stuff for being Keanu, I mean, to me, he has a lot of charisma. He's got an intensity, and like he's always. I mean, I've always liked him, and whatever he's in, I fall right into whatever role it is he's playing because there's something magnetic about him. And same with Patrick Swayze. I mean, he's got Patrick Swayze's got like this quality, or had this quality of like there was something wounded behind him all the time. Like his most successful roles were like in Dirty Dancing. Johnny, his name was Johnny.
Well, the rebel thing, you know?
But he was hurt. He was like, there's that pivotal scene where he's explaining to Baby that he was the one that felt used because she spends the whole movie feeling like he's just going to use her and like whatever, not to make this about Dirty Dancing, but it's just to make the point that like Patrick Swayze's characters always had like this depth to them where he was trying to beat the odds. Like he was trying, and in this movie it's the same. Like he's this criminal causing all this mayhem, but at the same time it's like you want him to get away with it. You just want, even at the end when it gets really messed up with Tyler and like you're like, oh my god, really, he's gonna kill her, or he's threatening to kill her, and what is he doing? Like, why did he go crazy? But there's something in his face that you're just like, but I want him to get away with it. Like, I want everything to be okay.
Well, you realize something is terribly wrong when the last heist,
Right.
he gets greedy, goes to the safe.
Right.
You never go to the safe. The
Right.
timing's off. Someone gets shot.
Right.
Boom, 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 boom. It gets bad.
Right. He
I mean,
unravels.
yeah, he unravels. I mean, do we want to go through the film?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
talk through it and like from the beginning to the end, and we'll just kind of like. I mean, we don't have to analyze anything because that's the whole point of this. It's just like to have fun with it
Sure.
and talk through it. So we can go. We can start with your notes too, and like add on to that. And
I mean, I already hit some stuff on my notepad, but I can start from like chronologically. So the
well, yeah.
first
So
thing,
like the movie opens. We got the surf scenes.
yeah,
You got the dude surfing in the
right.
waves.
I mean, they juxtapose immediately. You know this movie is going to be about, right? You have Patrick Swayze surfing, or his body double or whatever, surfing, and then you have Keanu Reeves, Johnny Utah, practicing his shooting, and it's done in the rain, right? So there's already like this mood.
Right. They're both practicing.
Right. They're both practicing, but the fact that it's done in the rain, I felt like was symbolic, because it's like something moody about it,
Right.
you know, something.
They're both in the water.
Right. Yes. They're both in the water, exactly. Then I jotted down like physical aptitude / perfection, because in these two scenes, like we're seeing these two guys, like obviously tip top shape, you know, at the highest level of what they do. And I thought that's what the movie's about. You know, it's about physical dexterity, I guess, and then later on, when we start to know their real stories, how that breaks down. Because then we see like later on with Johnny Utah's knee, and like he misses his opportunity to do certain things because of his physical limitations. And then it's kind of like, well, but did he really though? Like he could have gotten him, but he didn't get him. You know, but we'll get to that. Then I wrote down the thing I mentioned before about the film being about who knows what when, and who knows and who doesn't know.
Right.
You know, so I feel like immediately we're introduced to these characters that like Johnny Utah's brand new. He doesn't know anything. He thinks he knows, but he doesn't know anything.
Right.
And everybody in the beginning of the movie is immediately telling him he doesn't know anything.
Right. So he's the new rookie in town. He comes in from the academy.
Right.
He's brought in. There are these bank robberies happening.
Mm-hmm.
No one can figure it out.
Right.
You have the what would you call him? Like the like old and washed up. You know, unable to adapt to the new system of the FBI guy, which is Busey.
Pappas, yeah.
Pappas, which is like, you know, walking around being cranky. And no one
Right.
wants to listen to Pappas. Everyone's
Right.
making fun of him because Pappas has got these theories
Right.
that they're just like, you're crazy, old man. Here,
Right.
get the new guy and you guys go F off.
Right.
And like go play in the sand
Right.
and we'll figure this out.
Right. But are they even trying to figure out this case? I felt like the Bureau itself was kind of like, with
Well,
these
they were
guys.
kind of like, you know what? We can't figure it out. You guys take it.
It's seasonal.
Yeah, because it's
like-
it's seasonal. They're like, you know what? We can't figure it out. Give it to the old washed up guy and
Right.
give it to the new kid and let that play around. You know,
Right,
like,
right.
And just kind of waste time with it.
Right, right. Which is so offensive.
Right, right.
It's just like, hey, you go play with this. Like, we don't really care what
Right.
you do.
But it still has that feel, that 80s movie feel, where it's kind of like, all right, you bum, you know, you and the new guy, get out of here.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, you have the Ben Harp, but that's when he says, you know, you're a real Blue Flame special, aren't you, son? Young, dumb, and full of cum. I know. What I know and how I was. Remember, he even talked about how hard it was, that line. He said,
Yeah.
young, dumb, and full of cum. I know. What I don't know is how you got a sign here. Guess we must have ourselves an asshole shortage, huh? And that's when, you know, Johnny Utah's like, not so far. Which is a great line, you know?
Yeah. I know when we watched that documentary, they said that I hadn't even noticed, but that was all one take, like one long that tracking
The
shot,
opening,
right? Of well,
the
no,
police
of
station.
no, when Ben Harp is giving him the lay of the land,
Right,
walking
the
him
police
through
station. Yeah, they're
the
walking
police,
them through. Oh, the
the
FBI
FBI
station.
station,
Sorry.
and that was all one long take, and that's why he had to work really hard on
That line.
that big line, yeah, because it was long and he did it all day.
Right. So basically, we established the two characters that are gonna you can kind of see they're gonna be the main characters. Now we introduce Johnny Utah into the FBI,
Hmm.
and he meets Papas. Right. That's where
We
we
set up
are.
like this mentor figure, relationship where there's going to be like experience
Right.
and new guy,
Right.
and then the new guy's gonna, you know, teach something to the
Right.
old guy too.
So then the new guy shows up, and the old guy is about to dive into a pool to get a brick
Oh, that's right.
or
Yeah.
something at the
Yeah.
bottom of the pool.
They're doing some weird exercise. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Which
yes.
is funny now that you mention it because I think directly after that we meet the criminals, like the tribe,
Right.
right? And so then that's so funny because now that I'm thinking about it, when Pappas is doing that, it's kind of like, well, here's the FBI, like clunky, like, we got to do this, like to like learn how to do whatever it was he was supposed to do, like draw his pistol or something. But it's funny because it's like a routine exercise,
Right.
and nobody wants to do it, and everybody sucks at it, and nobody understands why they're doing it. And then you go into this other group where everything is synchronized, everything is like on point. These guys know what they're doing, and they're just in sync.
Right. They're in
Right.
sync.
Yeah. So that I wrote that down. I wrote like tribe, because with Patrick Swayze and his crew, they operate like a family unit, almost like a tribe. Like they're not just going in and punching a card. I mean,
Right.
they live their lives together.
Not just coworkers, they're a
Yeah,
family.
they're like a family. So they, which is intriguing and attractive. And you know, when you think of criminals, you think of gangs and stuff where they do like all this horrible, violent stuff. But usually within that, there's always that feeling of family. Like that's how they recruit people and like get people to stay and give their lives over to
Right.
whatever this group means.
And through meeting Bodhi, you can kind
Yeah.
of see that it's
He's
not.
like the guru.
Yeah, it's not like a mob type mentality. It's a family thing where it's like a modern Robin Hood tale is what
Yeah.
is what you kind of get over the back
Right.
as he starts. He'll start waxing, you know,
Poetic.
poetic.
Yeah.
This life is this, and we need to do this, and we need to stand up for the man, and
Right.
from the man, and
Right. Yeah. No, totally. And then I wrote that that there's an emotional outburst as a catalyst to the story. So that's when Pappas is kind of like uh, he has a theory. He doesn't want to tell Utah about it, or he doesn't really want to delve into it because he thinks it's nonsense and he doesn't want to waste his time with it. And Utah is like, "Don't you want to like?" He like kind of pushes him and stuff,
well,
right?
because the other guys are making fun of him. They're
Yeah.
like, why don't you tell him about your theory?
Right,
Ha,
right,
ha, ha,
right.
ha.
And then Utah like really gets into Pappas's face.
Because you can see that Papas is like like a kicked old dog, like
Aw.
like, and he's just like, oh, I'm not gonna tell this guy now because he's gonna make fun of me too.
Right.
But I think that Johnny Utah sees that he can ignite this flame in
Right.
him, because it also serves him good
Right.
because he wants to get a case.
Right.
He wants to
He's
show
hungry.
how good he is. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he's
doesn't want
hungry.
to be the blue flame special.
He's a go-getter.
Right.
He wants to show that he can handle stuff.
Exactly.
So he pushes him.
He pushes him to tell him the theory.
Yeah. And then he says fine, and then they agree to work on this, where he tells him he thinks they're surfers, and then they kind of come up with this plan for Johnny to infiltrate and like search for this group of people they obviously don't know yet.
Right. Surfers, seasonal.
Right.
They move like waves.
So there's that, and then I don't know, I guess he just meets Lori Petty, Tyler. He just meets her at like the
Well, he's surfing
Right.
He goes out surfing and he looks like a typical like newbie,
Oh, right.
and like he basically drowns and she saves him,
Right.
and then he's just like, whoa, like
Teach me to surf.
teach me to surf.
And she's
And
like, I
she's
don't have
like,
time
get
for you.
lost, yuppie kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right,
So again, like the who knows what and when, right? Like, so he doesn't know how to surf, but she does. So he's
right,
got to get her to teach him. And she's like, ugh, I don't have time for people who don't know what they want in life
right.
or their place in life. And yeah.
So this is basically Utah. He goes deep undercover to find the surfers through meeting Tyler. Um, the tough tomboy chick who can surf.
Yeah.
Apparently they were going to use like the typical blonde
Right.
California girl.
Which is what in my 12-year-old mind, thought should happen.
Right. But they didn't. They got her, which ends up working. So he comes up with this whole thing that his parents, he's a lawyer. His parents died, just like her parents.
Right.
That's how he gets his in.
He does research on her.
He does research on her, which is a little creepy. But
Hey, she had a record.
she had a record. That's true. So that's how he gets in. Where are you on that as far as like...
So then I skip from that, all
Because he
that.
starts meeting the tribe.
Yeah, he meets the tribe.
On the same
and...
beach that they filmed Karate Kid, just to let you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So then I just wrote football because we find out that, Utah was an ex-football player and hurt his knee and whatever. But that's his in, like when the guys are on the beach, they're playing football.
Yeah, his first in with Bodhi was when he was surfing. She saves him, and then he's showering, and those dudes come to...
Oh, that was before the football game?
Yeah, they go to kick his ass.
Oh.
He starts fighting back. Bodhi jumps in, and he's kind of like, oh, thanks a lot, man. He's like, yeah, no problem. And that's when he's like, hey, you should come. And
no, that's later, because he says you should come to my house.
That's
after
the party,
that.
right?
Yeah, this is before when they're playing football on the beach.
Right, which was after, I think, the fight at the shower.
You think? Because they're at the beach and they are not nice to each other, Johnny and Bodhi. Like
at the beginning, because he saves them from those dudes, Anthony Kiedis and all those other guys.
I'm confused.
He has the radio in the towel.
Right. Yeah, no, I know that.
He's like, I don't know
but
yet,
I thought that
know
was
yet.
later.
And then he gets jumped in the shower after he gets...
Well, because in the football game, they're very competitive.
Well, that's just the kind of like,
Yeah? I thought it was like territorial.
Alpha dog type thing.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
But he was testing him, because he fought with Bodhi. They both kicked those dudes' asses,
Right. Well, that's why I thought that happened later, because I thought that their first breakthrough was at the football game where, Johnny and...
At the football game is when Bodhi figures out who he is.
Yeah.
He goes, you're Johnny Utah,
right.
the quarterback.
Right. And that little piece of information is what gets him into the group.
Yeah.
Where everybody's like, oh, all right, you're cool.
Into the group. But he got to that football game because they both fought at the showers.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, and then I wrote down that the football game is reminiscent of Top Gun's volleyball scene.
Yeah, that's great.
Not as homoerotic, but yeah,
right,
but it was
right.
It was definitely reminiscent. So you got that 80s vibe still.
Right. So at this point, he feels that he hasn't found who the culprits might be.
Right. He doesn't know who they are.
But he's in this cool little group of surfers.
And discovering this lifestyle.
That's kind of like, he's like, whoa.
No, but he does, after that fight with the other group, he does kind of feel like they're up to no good. And they do go investigate them.
He says he feels he's got a lead with, he's like, those are probably going to be the dudes.
Right.
So he does start a lead with them.
Right.
Which, if we keep moving on,
right,
we later realize that
they were wrong.
They're wrong.
Yeah.
This is pretty much where we're like in the middle of the movie. He thinks he's got this lead. He's getting yelled at home base because he's surfing.
He shows up with the surfboard.
He's got nothing. He's got no leads. All he's got is like these punks who might be drug dealers, who might be also robbing banks.
And it turns out that they screwed up this other guy's 3-year investigation.
Absolutely.
Right?
That guy
Who
was
was that? Tom
undercover.
Sizemore. They didn't touch anybody in this film.
Uh, womp womp. But
Womp
yeah,
womp.
so the everything was botched because he botched, which they say is because he's blind of being friends with Bodhi and the gang, that he's not seeing if it could have been them or not because he's into his whole new vibe,
Right.
and he's got it. He's saying it's got to be these guys. It's got to be these guys, and
Right.
that was a complete failure.
Right.
Didn't the house blow up or something like that too, or something?
No, it was like it was like a huge
Meth. It was a meth ring.
yeah, and it was a huge chase scene, which we watched that documentary that pointed out that it was a foot chase scene, which
Foot
was
chase
interesting
scene as
as opposed
interesting
to
as a car
car
scene. It was a
chase.
handheld thing
Yeah.
that Catherine came up with.
Right.
Handheld
And
camera.
she wanted all the shots really tight, like where there's that, like the guy's almost putting Keanu's face in the
Right.
lawnmower.
Right. They have shots of him coming.
Yeah.
Shots of him going.
Right.
Really close ups.
Anthony Kiedis shoots himself in the foot. There's the naked chick.
Right.
Things are happening. It's a good old
The house
90s.
is like a summer meth lab
Yeah.
romp
Yeah.
with interesting outfits and interesting looks.
And a yappy dog.
And yeah.
So a lot going on in that sequence. But so they find out that they're wrong and they don't know what to do next. And then Bodhi invites Utah on this first thing in the morning, like surf. Like he's in the group. He's gonna live their lifestyle basically. He goes on this surf, has the time of his life, and freaking figures it out. It's them because the one guy moons everybody on the
Right.
surfboard, and Johnny
we had
Utah,
seen earlier footage of the bank robbery where the guy moons
everyone.
That's how he shows Johnny Utah his theory, saying that they are surfers because of the tan line when he moons them.
Yep.
So jumping back.
So now we're up to here's Utah discovering that he's in
Eureka
bed.
moment.
Yeah, he's in bed with the gang he's been chasing. So now he has to follow through with his job, which I'm sure at that point is difficult for him because he's likes these people and like he wants to be a part of what they have going on.
Which seems to be an interesting fight of like choosing whether he wants to be in the light side or the dark side.
Right. I mean, I don't think he really struggles too much with it. Like, I feel like he always knows that he's got to go after them.
Right.
Like
this is my job. They need to be arrested, and I could always keep surfing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think he's in that deep, or at least it doesn't feel like such a struggle until he actually ends up chasing in a later scene, right when they go in for that. They're trying to stake out the next robbery.
Right. So now we have Papas and Utah staking out the robbery in the car. Meatball sandwiches.
Meatball sandwiches.
The whole deal. Conveniently, Johnny Utah is ordering the meatball sandwiches, and behind his back, you see the guys go into the bank.
And again, I jotted down, this movie is all about who knows what and when, right? So throughout, up until then, it was Utah knows something, but the
Everybody
other people
knows
don't.
a little bit of something.
And in that shot, the audience knows, and the character doesn't know.
Not.
Neither of them know.
Neither of them.
Because Utah doesn't know they're going in, and they don't know that they're being cased out by Utah, but we, the audience, know that it's about to go down.
About to go down. So at that point, that's when they're coming out, and Utah jumps out of the car.
Right.
And, of course, gives himself up.
Right.
FBI starts firing.
Right.
You do see Bodhi in the Reagan mask, basically seeing that it's him. You can kind of be like, uh-oh, it's been discovered.
Right.
So now we know something. They know something about each other.
Right.
Now the gig is up for everybody.
Yeah.
The gig is up for everybody.
So now the question is what's going to happen, right?
Right. So Johnny Utah gets on a chase with Bodhi through the canals and stuff of LA and all that.
All on foot.
All on foot. And in the end, when he jumps over the fence, I believe, or the wall, I believe it was the fence, he lands on his bad knee.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, knee goes out. He lands. He has a clear shot, which in the beginning of the movie, we saw
They set up
what a
how
good
well.
shot he is.
Right.
Perfect score.
Right.
Perfect score. Doesn't shoot Bodhi, lets him go, shoots up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Tells Pappas, I missed.
Right.
Pappas isn't buying it.
Right.
So
Right.
now we're at that point in the movie, kind of like the arc, where everything's at a, where everyone now knows kind of everything,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
now no one knows what they're going to do about it.
Right. 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 And I jotted down the physical limitation of Utah's knee giving out on him is significant because they spent so much of the film showcasing the physical aptitude of everybody involved, and so now he's like held back because of this injury, and he's also held back because of the emotional life he's building with these people, and he doesn't shoot him. He has a clear shot. He could take it, and he didn't because he doesn't want to.
Right.
So that's where we see like that line blur where you're like for the first time like, okay, we have no idea what's going to happen next. And the same with Bodhi. I mean, I think Bodhi could have overpowered him if he wanted to, especially when he saw that he was injured. He could have gone and taken, or maybe not, but I feel like it's both of them consciously being like, we're gonna like back off from each other because I think they both equally don't want to
Almost like
end.
a gentleman's agreement.
Yeah, like I
type thing.
don't think either one of them want to end the connection they've built.
So moving along now,
Mm-hmm.
chase scene is over. He goes home. He's with Tyler. They're in
Yep.
bed.
Yep.
Now, me as a viewer is thinking, damn, he's going to need to tell Tyler because now Bodhi knows, and I'm sure he's going to want to give her a heads up
Right.
that the gig is up.
Right.
So while you're thinking that, she finds his badge
Right.
and his gun.
Right.
And now she gives him shit for it.
Right.
So now that reveal happens. So now more people know more things,
Yep.
and no one knows what to do about it.
Right.
Because he's obviously falling in love with her, has fallen in love with her. She's probably that pissed because she does love him.
Sure.
Which brings us to the point where Bodhi shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything? What did you think about that scene with her and Johnny Utah with the reveal that she finds out who he is?
I mean, I thought that scene ends with her, she basically just walks out on him, right? And
Yeah.
he's just like, again, he's trying to go after her and his knee's all messed
Right.
up. So he falls off the bed and he's like, oh, damn, and she pieces out. And now I'm having trouble. I didn't know anything down, but now I'm having trouble remembering what happens after that. Like,
Well, now Bodhi and the gang comes to pick him up, and they go skydiving.
oh, that's right. They go skydiving, which is so odd.
Well, it's not because.
Well, they're playing the game of, right? Because at first you're just like, wait, do they know it's him? Do they
Exactly.
know he's an FBI agent?
Exactly.
Like, they're playing.
Exactly. So at one point, Johnny Utah is when he says, "I am an FBI agent," which I believe was in the plane going up.
Oh, he said it then?
Yeah. So, now it is the whole game because like they're still kind of treating him as like, no, we know who you are,
Right,
but we're doing this. And we're
Right.
doing this for a reason, and we're not
Right.
going to tell you why.
right.
So then they're passing around the parachutes and like doing all that stuff.
Joking around, like,
Right.
who's packed this one and who's packed that one. And right.
Right, and then you have like the Oscar-winning line of, "Are we gonna jump or jerk off?"
Right.
So that's the classy stuff. They're up in the plane. They skydive.
Yep.
Johnny Utah has an amazing time. This is amazing, right? So they do their little like holding hands,
Yeah.
do the circle,
Synchronization again.
synchronization, family,
Yeah.
togetherness. It takes a village type thing.
Adrenaline rush.
Adrenaline rush, adrenaline junkies, the whole deal.
Right.
So they land, again, landing on his bad knee.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they all hit, they all hug, they all love it, they all go away. Bodhi's like, yo, Johnny, I got something to show you. Come over here in the van, right? So that's when he gets him in the van, and he's like, I hate to do this, but
Right.
I need to get out of this scot-free. So we have Tyler being held captive with a
Right.
video
Right.
of her being held captive by this, like, apparently nut job that, like, if he doesn't get the word from Bodhi, he kills her.
Right.
So now he's got to let her,
What was the
he's
guy's
got to
name?
let him go.
Rosie. Rosie.
Yeah,
Rosie.
Rosie.
And the actor played Terry on Wayne's World, the big guy that used to say "I love you" to everybody. I love you, man. I love you, man. So he's just like the actor, I guess, is used to playing like big thuggy guys.
Right.
But yeah, so he's holding Tyler, right? And so then he says to him, "You have to come with us on this last run, basically."
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
doing one more run, and you're coming with us, and you're
Right.
doing it.
Right.
So they rob a bank, their last robbery before the season end. Johnny Utah doesn't wear a mask. He goes in there with them, and of course, being the last bank robbery, it all goes wrong.
Of course.
Bodhi gets greedy, goes for the safe, which they never do. It was always 90 seconds, cash drawers in and out. Goes for the safe. The guys even tell you, just even like in the beginning of the movie, where like they're making fun of themselves about going undercover surfing.
Right.
These guys are doing the same thing now at the tail end of the movie. The robbers are going, just like, why are we going in the safe? We never go in the safe.
Right,
Why are we
right,
going in
right.
the safe? We never go in the
Right.
safe, you know?
Right.
So they're freaking out. Of course, there's a random off-duty cop
Good guy with a
laying
gun.
down, good guy with a gun. So shit goes down. Shit goes
Yep.
down, and people get shot, and
die.
everything gets botched. They Bodhi basically goes against the Bodhi rules and just basically knocks Johnny Utah out cold. Leaves him in the bank. Johnny Utah gets arrested.
Right.
All his co FBI dudes are like giving him shit for it. You know, like,
Yeah.
oh, you're such an idiot. Blah blah
Right.
blah. You're robbing banks. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Pappas defends him, knocks out the captain cold, which is a great scene. It's kind of like he's on
And
his
they-
team type thing.
And they go back into it to try to rescue Tyler.
So basically, he's like, I need your help, Pappas. We need to do this. Pappas is like, yeah. You're morons for doing what you did, but let's do this.
Right.
So now the search is on to try to get her
They're going back to he knows they're going to the airport.
to the airport.
So he heads out there. They have a shootout.
They have a shootout.
Pappas gets killed.
Pappas
The
gets
other-
shot. Yeah.
He dies.
Does he die?
Oh yeah, he dies. He gets shot and he dies.
Yeah, you're right.
Utah goes over to him and it's like, so Utah is with Pappas and
Bodhi.
Bodhi is with his guy.
Right.
But his guy, they get on the plane.
Right.
But I mean,
Two guys. One guy's shot in the stomach.
yeah.
His other guy. No,
Well,
it's just him
it's
and
just the guy.
Yeah, just
and then
him
they
and the guy.
strap the money and the everything on him, and then they do the. So anyway, so then they do the skydiving again, and it turns into the you pull it. No, you pull it. The parachute. So Bodhi and Utah are like arguing as they're going plummeting down.
Right. Well, Roach is the one who's dying.
Right.
So they strap everything to him, and
Right.
before they push him out of the plane. That's when
Right.
he says, I'll see you in hell
Right.
to Johnny, and he goes flying out.
Oh my God, that's right. And then Johnny
Right.
goes
So
without
Bodhi
a parachute.
jumps. Johnny
Yeah.
doesn't have a parachute. What does he do? Super action man
Right.
jumps out of the plane without a parachute,
He's never
which is
done-
pretty badass. Catches up to Bodhi, lands on him, and then at 200 miles an hour, they're yelling at each other. You pull the chute. No, you pull the chute. You pull the chute. No, you pull the chute.
Right. And so he has to let go of the gun.
Right. Which was done in, I'm sorry, not Fear Factor, but when they test all the theories, that show that they had, when they test theories, whether they could have worked in real life or
Right.
not, they did test that. Like if you can jump out of the plane, catch up to another guy, land on him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact results. It wasn't like a total negative or positive, but they
Okay.
were saying it was possible,
possible.
to catch up to someone and land on them.
Wow.
It was impossible to speak to each other at
Right.
that speed,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
But that was very interesting. So basically, what happens is what they land,
Right.
um,
The
and
guy Roach is dead.
Roach is totally dead. The money is flying
Right.
everywhere in the wind.
Right.
Um,
And he goes.
well, that's when Rosie releases Tyler.
Right.
Right, she goes running to him wearing her lingerie. It's a little weird. And then Bodhi basically rides off down the dusty track where
Right.
they plan to go down the dusty road.
Well, they're going to Mexico.
Yeah,
Right.
but then that's basically the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's kind of weird is, I mean, it is kind of like a, what did it say? Did it say months later, or did it say anything at all?
I think you said a year
A
later.
year later. So basically now they're in Australia.
Right, because he
Bodhi had
always
a prediction of the 100-year storm that the Pacific was going to swell and produce huge waves.
right that he wanted to do.
Right. And as you can see by the film, it's come true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to get down to it, Johnny Utah shows up, catches him.
Mm-hmm.
What does he say? The ride's over, Bodhi.
Yes. And he's like, just I gotta do it, man. I gotta do it. And he lets him. He lets him
Just
go.
one more ride, man. Just one more ride, right? Is that what he says?
Yeah.
And then, well, first he does that. First he cuffs him, right?
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, "Come on, man, just let me go."
Like he does it on the slide too.
Right.
You're talking, and all of a sudden he's like, "We're handcuffed."
We're handcuffed.
Right.
He's like, "No."
He's like, "No, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. Let me go, man. I have to do it."
Right. So then you see like all the Australian authorities showing up, and basically that's kind of like when Johnny Utah also has his like spiritual moment because he's like, you know what? Yeah, this is all this guy's ever wanted to do was this, and he's
Right.
probably gonna die.
Yeah.
So let him go out that way.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Which talks to what in that? I mean, he's letting his idol go, if you will, or
I mean, I did always think that the ending was a little problematic because it doesn't really answer any questions. Like it just creates questions. But then again, the film has this existential vibe to it.
right, like a circle of life.
Yeah, that
Like
so
the waves.
it's acceptable that the movie sort of ends with you going, okay, so what happened? Like, did Bodhi die? What happens to Utah? Like, is he in trouble? Does he give up? I think he gives up. Doesn't he throw his badge at the end? Like he's made a decision that he's
Yeah.
not going to be
Pretty much throws his badge in the water.
right. So you feel like okay,
He has long hair now.
has
Bodhi has short hair.
that's right. The physical changes.
Right, physical changes.
But yeah, I mean, towards the end of the film, like so many things happen that you're like, wait, what? Like you start out with Bodhi, and like, why did he deviate from? Why did he do that? Why did he want to go into the safe? He knew how dangerous it was. He knew it was going to end badly. Like, why did he do it? It's like he was falling apart, And then with Utah, I mean, he let him go twice. And he got crazy. Like they set up.
He had a man crush on Bodhi.
They set up this, this situation with Tyler that makes it like, supposed to explain why Utah does all the crazy stuff he's doing. But I mean, no disrespect to Tyler and whatever they have, but like, I don't really think he jumped out of a plane
Right.
to save her. I mean, maybe he did, but I feel like it was something bigger than that. Like it's just, it's like they were both wrestling themselves
Right. 'Cause
through each other.
You got Johnny's got those quotes like, "I gotta be fucking crazy" when they're night surfing.
Right.
And Bodhi's just like, "But are you crazy enough?"
Right.
It's that line,
It's
like, can you
like
go
they were
past
pushing
the line?
that line the whole
Right.
time, like especially towards the end, like once everything is on the table with that knowing, like who knows what and once everything is known, then the movie I feel like takes on this other vibe, this other tone where like they're loose cannons almost, and like everything that we knew about them before is not necessarily true anymore because they've gotten to this.
Right. I mean, what a ride. I mean, like, this is Johnny Utah's first case, and he quits at the end of it.
Well, I mean, he got his whole life turned around.
That was
Like
a
he
rough
really,
ride, bruh.
he did. He got everything. I mean, everything look, a lot of people who work in law enforcement. I mean, I've never worked in law enforcement, but I feel like that must be something that a lot of people go through because you do have to sort of have this black or white way of thinking if you're going to enforce the law, right? You have to like know what's right and what's wrong. And then when you get that line blurred at some point in your career, it's like, can you even do your job anymore?
Well, there's the whole political undertone too, where because Bodhi is wearing the president's masks
Hmm.
and all that, and he's got things to say about the man and all that. So they don't get too deep into it. So
Right.
I'm sure they didn't want to get too convoluted with the
Right.
political theme.
Hmm.
But I mean, he was doing the modern Robin Hood thing, you know,
Yeah,
and
sure.
that was pretty much. I mean, but Robin Hood didn't kill himself at the end.
No, no.
But I mean, that was the end of his journey, the ultimate ride,
Right.
and there was nothing else to do.
And I mean, like, it was sort of Robin Hoodish, but not really, because it's not like they were giving the money to like less, less. Oh my God, I can't think of the word, but like poor people. They weren't giving like
No, it was
they
just to
were
support
funding
their
themselves.
surf around the world.
Yeah, they were funding themselves. I mean, they weren't hurting anybody really in the
Right.
beginning. Like they didn't. They were scaring the shit out of people, but they didn't hurt anyone. They didn't shoot anybody. They didn't kill anybody. They didn't maim anybody. You know, it all happened at the very end when everything started to unravel, and all of a sudden everyone's dying, and they have this brutal situation with Tyler where she's being held captive, and you know, some part of me is like, well, would he have really killed her? Would he have?
He said, once Rosie gets into motion, he can't stop until he gets the order. So I mean, we've seen that Bodhi's had contingency plans throughout the
Yeah.
movie. Sometimes not too smart. So maybe he was counting on Johnny Utah being in love with her,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, found his way into his heart, kind of thing. And he
Right.
knew what to do
I
to
think
pull his
also,
strings.
I think also his character was kind of like, um, I'm gonna set it up this way, and whatever happens, happens.
Right,
Either he saves her or he doesn't. Either I get away with it or I don't.
right,
I don't think he had any clear anticipation of what was going to happen. He just was going to go from one step to the next, hoping for, not even hoping, just like letting what will be, right?
right.
And then he, in the end, gets to go out the way he always wanted to go out, or did he? Because I don't know. He could have survived that. They don't really show him dead or anything. So
Right. Well, in the end, however, he lets Bodhi go and ride the ferocious waves that ride in terrifying height, like these giant like
yeah,
walls of water that you're like, okay, this is pretty crazy. Utah watches as Bodhi paddles out to his death as the water crashes into him. That's what I'm reading off of
hmm
IMDb, which is
hmm
pretty funny. But I mean, Utah's basically just standing there in the pouring rain. His
yeah, in
long
the rain
hair,
again. Yeah,
and it ends with the rain again. His
yeah.
long hair, like sitting there, like soaking wet. His eyes are like have a like that peace, bruh. Look.
You think he sent him off like
I think he did.
camaraderie?
I think he did, and
Mm.
and because like that's when like the Australian policemen come over and like they're all pissed off and they're just like
Yeah.
well, it's all right. We'll get him when he comes back in, and that's when like he chucks his badge in the water,
Right.
and then to the raging waves he looks and he just goes, he's not coming back, and that's pretty much the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
I never got the sense that Keanu was okay with it though. Like I didn't think Johnny Utah was like, "You go, boy." Like I think
I don't think it was you go
he
boy,
was
but it was kind of
conflicted.
like but it was kind of like what is it? Vaya con Dios.
Violent, yeah.
So that's his blessing.
I think he kind of was the same in that the way Bodhi was before. Well, what will be will be. Like I think he
Right.
was like he's either gonna make it or he's
Right. And
not.
if he lives, these cops are here. They're going to
Yeah.
pick him up,
Yeah.
and it's going to be over. But if he goes out that way, vaya con Dios.
Right. Yeah.
Which is what Bodhi tells him in the airplane.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a wild ride. It's a great movie.
It's definitely
It's fun to
a lot of stuff
watch.
going on.
It's fun to chuckle at certain parts.
Mm-hmm.
Not hate, just chuckle.
No.
And it's a movie that like I said before, it stands the test of time. I could, if it's on, I leave it on.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely
For
that
sure.
movie that if it's on, I leave it on,
Yeah.
and I love it.
Yeah.
And it's great to know even now that it's a Catherine Bigelow thing,
Mm-hmm.
and even James Cameron was involved,
Mm-hmm.
because I never like movies from back then. I never paid attention to who directed it.
Right.
Like all you heard was like Spielberg,
Mm-hmm.
Lucas,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Maybe Soderbergh,
Right.
but like, what did we know about Catherine Bigelow back? But
No.
now we know
Nothing.
what a badass she is, and
Yeah. No,
like,
totally.
so now you go back and you're like, oh wow, these directors, these writers did this.
Mm-hmm.
Rewatch the movies, and you're like, you know what? I still like this movie,
Right.
and I like this director. So
Yeah.
now it all makes sense, and it all comes together, and
Right.
you kind of like feel good about
Yeah.
how your choices and everything you like is kind of like in one universe.
Right. And for me, like I said, I didn't even know that I was a woman director, like in the first few years of having known the film. And when I watched it again now, I mean, I couldn't. I was trying to see. I was like, well, is she telling the story in a different way? Like, is there something going? I mean, there really isn't. There's nothing that's like really like signed. Oh, a woman directed this, So that's kind of cool too, because it's just, it's obviously testosterone filmed, a testosterone filled film, and she just did it. Like she put it together. I mean, there was that a few things that some people mentioned in that documentary we watched about how like her choices were different for filming, like the fight sequences. She wanted tight shots. She wanted everything to be very intimate. And I guess you could say that, okay, that is a different, way of approaching an action movie.
Especially in '80s movies, how like the
Yeah.
fight scenes would be a wide shot,
Right.
everyone just like full bodied going at it.
Right. 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 And she just kind of had it be more intimate and like more basic with the foot chases instead of car chases, etc. But even still, I mean, it was a great choice. It creates a lot of tension, but I didn't think of it as like, her being a woman and being like, okay, how do I tell these guys' story my way?
Right.
I think she served the film for what it was. It was a great, fast paced thriller action movie, and she just did it. And that was cool too,
That was cool. And through articles I've been looking at with modern day news and all that stuff, they're still calling Bodhi the coolest movie character of all time.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're saying it's Patrick Swayze obviously,
Yeah.
but I mean they're really just the way he's almost bringing his own real self into it, and like the way he is. So they're
Right.
loving that. I mean, that's it, man. This movie is a cool movie, and a lot of people like it, and I think not enough people go back to it. Like we should.
Mhm.
We did watch that documentary of the 25 years
Mhm.
later, which is really cool, which you can find on YouTube. And who knows? Maybe they'll make something later, some kind of sequel for real or something. I mean, if 2015's Point Break was called something else,
Yeah.
and it's still tied into the same universe,
Right.
like the guy could have been like from the school of Bodhi. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a guy he knew or something, or maybe
Right.
he
Right.
kind of worshipped, if you will, and
Right.
like
Right.
brought it to the next level or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
That would have been cool because you can be like, all right, they're not trying to replicate the film,
Mhm.
and they're doing something different, and like, but in the same vibe of like
Mhm.
craziness.
Right.
But whatever. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not a movie executive. All I can do is talk about it right now.
Right. No, I mean, I think the themes are strong enough that you could build another story around it. I'm fine if they never do because
Leave it
we
the way it
we don't
is.
we don't need we don't need too many more remakes or expansions out there. Especially when this particular cast it's pretty special for
Yeah.
what it was, and you can't recreate Patrick Swayze. I mean, he's not here anymore, and so you wouldn't really be able to replace him if you were trying to tell that character story again in some way. Like, I don't really think. And it was cool
Unless
to
you
see.
do like a Bodhi prequel, a young Bodhi,
Yeah, that could be cool.
you
Like,
know?
how did he get to where he was
Right.
at
Was
that
he
point?
like a lawyer working stiff, like
And
John Utah said he was before, you know,
yeah.
or did he grow up in like Hawaii with like,
Yeah, I mean, I would think he's more of a. I think he probably had more of a like a nomad type existence before. I don't think he. I think he came from probably like a broken home, or
see, I'm
I mean,
thinking he might have come from like money, because how would he
you
know
think?
the whole, just that whole, the man thing and money and the presidents and the masks and like the whole corporations and stuff like that. I
Right.
mean, who knows? Maybe he's just a self-taught
Yeah.
guy, like you're saying, like that, where he's like the whole like kind of hippie thing.
That's what I always thought, but I guess it could be interesting if he came from another. Maybe he was a cop.
Yeah, exactly. We can go for
Maybe he was a
days.
banker.
Yeah,
He worked on the Reagan administration
right,
campaign, I'm
right,
sure.
right. All right. So on that note, folks, I think we're gonna call it quits here. I think that was a good session. It was
Yeah.
definitely longer
Oh,
than we
okay.
expected, but I
Yeah,
mean, it was a great talk, and that's why it took this long, because we had a good time talking about it, and there was
for
so much to
sure.
say and
Yeah.
so much to celebrate. So that's the end of our podcast, folks. I want to thank you for tuning in. Make sure you catch up with us. Click on the After Dark links on the zerodbpodcast.com page. Check out the other show, the headline show. I got some anchor stuff I do too. We're gonna try to bring you stuff as often as we can, and as well made as we can.
For sure.
And don't forget to check us out. If you want to send some questions or comments to Twitter, you can do it at 0db23, or just go to the 0dbpodcast.com site, and you can catch our social media links there. Claudia's social media links, my social media links, all of our social media links, questions, comments, whatever you can. But up until then, send us some comments and some suggestions of some movies you'd want to talk about, and we'll get that together for you. But until next time, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Good night.